Hi everybody, welcome to Lesson 4, Quiz 2 Explanation. In this video, we'll go through the final quiz for Lesson 4. If you've finished on Moodle already, let's have a look at the answers together. Now this is a very long passage, and we don't want to read the whole passage before we try to answer the questions. It'll just take too long in the exam. That first section of the exam, you're going to have about 30 minutes to answer up to 20 questions. So you do have to move very quickly in section 1 of the exam. According to the authors, what is the most important stage of writing a business letter or memo? We have planning, writing, reviewing, revising, or rewriting. Reviewing means to look again. Revising means to edit and to improve. Rewriting means to write it again. Now, we get a clue by looking at the title. The title says, what's so painful about revising? So the clue is that the answer might be number 4. And then it talks about the last 5 minutes. It talks about unrevised errors in tone. We need to review what has been written. We need to revise. So if we go down a little bit more, we can see that we should learn to revise with pleasure. We should look at the revision of letters. Okay, so we can see that revision is all the way through. And actually, if you looked at the last sentence, revision for a few hours. So we've got the idea of revision all the way through. We're not talking about the beginning. We're not talking about writing. So A and B are definitely wrong. You're not rewriting the whole thing, but you're trying to improve it. It's difficult, perhaps, to choose between answer C and answer D, but review is only really mentioned here in the second paragraph. All the other paragraphs are talking about revise, not review. That's why the best answer is D. Which of the following types of attitudes do the author think that writers should develop towards revision? The attitude of a teacher, lawyer, artist, assassin, that's somebody who kills for money, or a scientist. Now, in the third paragraph, it does say that they associate revision with a Mr. or Mrs. Gradgring English instructor at some time in their education. Picky, 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 mean looking for the smallest errors. But contrast that negative mindset with the attitudes of other creators towards their work. A painter looks at the final touches as perfecting it, not worrying about it. A musician looks at the final notes because they want it to be perfect. They don't want it to sound like nails on a fingerboard. Writers, too, should learn to revise with pleasure. The final checkout and revision of letters and memos is more palatable if it has its 5 steps. This paragraph is saying you should do like an artist or a musician, not like a teacher. A teacher is a negative kind of thing. It also talks about an assassin killing the work step by step. So teacher and assassin are both mentioned, but this paragraph is about the negative ideas that people have. It says that they are mistaken ideas. The negative attitude of the previous paragraph is contrasted with the attitudes, the positive attitudes of artists. So the correct answer would be C, an artist. Art kind of includes painting, music, and other things like that. On the basis of the excerpt, which of the following best describes the process of revising? Well, they said that the teacher was picky, but this is a negative mindset. So although picky is included, nitpicking is included, picking, nitpicking, that's a negative idea. The same way that an assassin killing something step by step is also seen as a negative idea. So we can remove answers A and E. We're not trying to nitpick and we're not trying to kill it. So we have criticizing, perfecting, or paraphrasing. Now, the whole passage is about revising as being something that people should learn to do, that they should learn to revise with pleasure. So criticizing is quite a negative word, and we're probably thinking about a positive thing, not a negative thing. So take away B as well. So perfecting or paraphrasing. You should know that paraphrasing means using different words to say the same thing. Perfecting, well, means to make perfect. Look at this paragraph. The attitude of an artist. The final touches make it perfect. Or think about the musician. That the final notes make it more pleasurable to hear. So we should be thinking of being like an artist and seeing that revising work is perfecting the work, not killing it, not being picky, not a negative thing, but it's a positive process. Next question. Which of the following would be the best title for this excerpt? Now, titles always mean main idea. So revision in 5 easy steps. Writing is revising, writing is rewriting, why writers hate to revise, or revision, the first step in rewriting. Now, some things to notice. We have already talked about revision being something that comes up again and again, so we can probably take away answer C. We're not talking about rewriting, we are talking about revising. Now, this paragraph does talk about people hating it. It's a negative mindset. But then that is contrasted with the positive mindset, and writers are told to learn to take pleasure in revising it. So the majority of the passage is not going to be on the negative, it's going to be on the positive. Then, as you go through, you see that the authors are giving instructions to the reader for how to revise their work. And there are 5 steps. Now, answer E, the first step, well, we don't only have 1 step, we have 5 steps. So we can take away answer E. Answer A is going to be the best answer. A lot of the paragraphs do talk about revision or revising, and there are 5 clear steps that take up more than half of the passage. So answer A is the best option. Mark Twain once said that the difference between the right word and almost the right word is the difference between lightning and the lightning bug. To which step would this most apply? So we have key is the right word and almost the right word. So this quotation is talking about choosing the correct word. So let's look at the 5 questions that introduce the steps. Question 1, does your main message stand out? Question 2, will your language appeal? 3, do your ideas hang together logically and persuasively? 4, is your letter or memo free of surface errors? And 5, how does it look on the page? So number 1, is the main idea clear? Number 2, is the language the best language that you can use? Number 3, is there a good structure? Is it logically put together? Number 4, is it free of grammatical errors? And then number 5, how does it look on the page? So language kind of links to the idea of words. Words are part of language. So if we go to step 2, we can see it says think about the words that you've used. So this is linking to the question. We're not talking about grammar or structure or main idea. The question is focused on words. So step 2 is the correct answer. According to the excerpt, why is the spell check mechanism not foolproof? So we're thinking about spell checking. Okay, so spell checking might be in step 2 about the right language, or it could be in step 4 about errors. Errors could be about grammar or it could be about spelling. But it says, use a spell checker, but don't depend on it to correct incorrect. For example, bear it when you intended is. Read your document aloud to discover omitted words. Scan your letter or memo from back to front, picking up spelling mistakes. So this is about, these are about context errors, okay? It is spelled correctly, is spelled correctly, but you might be using them in the wrong place. So although it will find the words that are spelled wrongly, it will not understand if words have been used in the wrong way. So the correct answer is going to be C. It will not detect context errors. Context means, is the word correct in this way that it is used? Context means what is before and afterwards. So putting the word into the paragraph or the sentence. Question 5, step 5. So we know that we're looking at the step 5 section, which is what is here. Step 5 in the revision process is most like which of the following sayings? If the shoe fits, wear it. It takes a confident person to ask for help. When in Rome, do as the Romans. When in Rome, do as the Romans means that your behavior should change in the place that you are. Maybe if you're in Myanmar, you wear longi. If you go to England, you might wear jeans. You fit your behavior to what other people are doing in that local culture. D, dress for success. That means if you want to be successful, look successful. I think many times when you go for interviews, I tell you put on a nice shirt or a Karen shirt. Make sure you look smart. Don't have your hair shaved just before an interview, or don't have it very long just before an interview. If you're going for an interview, make sure that you look professional. That means that people will think you are successful. In other words, dress for success. Pretty is as pretty does is kind of a difficult one to explain. But pretty is as pretty does means if you are pretty, you do pretty, I think, kind of. Now, step 5, how does your letter or memo look on the page? So that it says looking, okay? So you might be thinking answer E. The final look of your document matters as much as all the hard work you've put into the language and the content. Ask a co-worker or a friend to look over your final draft and make suggestions for improvement. Set the document aside for a few hours, then review it at your leisure. In the heat of composition, what looks good enough may cry out for revision a few hours later. No, it actually is going to be dress for success. Make sure the presentation looks good. When I did essays for university, for example, I always took a long time over the title page. I made sure that there was a small symbol in the same place on every single assignment that I did, that my titles were a certain size, they were exactly in the middle of the page, that my name was a smaller size, that the word count was there, that the date was accurate. I made sure that when they looked at my work, they could see that a lot of time had been put into the presentation, because they think if you've spent time on that, you've also spent time writing the essay. So it's about making people have confidence in what you're doing, making them think that your appearance shows that you are successful. Which of the following best describes the style in which this excerpt is written? Now, one thing I want to show you very quickly is it's instructions. You spend, you know the result. It's talking about your teachers who were picky. That's not a formal sentence. Picky is how you might talk to your friend. They are stingy. You know, that's you talking to your friend. That's quite informal. And because we're using that pronoun you, that is directly written to you. Academic work in university, you do not say I, you do not say you always write in the third person. He does, she does, they does. It is better. Not I think it's better, it is better. We write in the third person voice in academic and formal work. So this is definitely not going to be dry and academic. and it's not technical. Technical would be lots of detail, lots of specific detail that you need to follow. Concise means very short. This does not look very short. It's a very long document. It gives a lot of extra information. It didn't need to explain about the English teacher that you thought was picky. It didn't need to give the example of assassination or the example of a painter and a musician. There's a lot of additional examples that are not needed. So this is not concise. This is longer. So you could say this is wordy, meaning that they've used a lot of words to explain quite simple things. Or you could say that this is friendly and informal. Informal meaning you might be writing directly to somebody, and you can see that the pronouns you show that this is an example of informal work. It is also wordy. So is it friendly or is it humorous? Humorous would be telling jokes. There are no jokes in this. This is just explanation for how people working in a company can revise their work and make it seem better. So there's no jokes. It is friendly. So the best answer is A. In a question like this, if you can remove a couple of the answers, the ones that you have left, you compare very carefully and you see which one is the best description of the work that you have. Okay, last question. In which of the following patterns is the excerpt primarily organized? Is it cause and effect? Is it compare and contrast? Is it a problem and a solution? Is it listing items in order of importance? Or is it familiar items before the unfamiliar items? Well, there is a small comparison and contrast here, but that's not the main section. The compare and contrast is the attitude of an assassin or an English teacher compared to a musician or a painter. But the majority of the work is giving you instructions, so we can take away compare and contrast. And it's not cause and effect. This is step 1, and then 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. Actually, this is chronological order. It's instructions. You should do this in this order, not cause and effect. Not if you do number 1, then number 2 can happen. No, it's not an effect. It's just a list of things that you need to do. Is step 1 to step 5 in order of importance? Is finding the main idea more important than the language? And is the language more important than the structure? No. It's not saying that these are 5 things you should do with the last one being the least important. It's saying all 5 of these things are important for you to do. But there are 5 steps. You have to have something first, you have to have something last. But just because things come first and last does not mean that they are in order of importance. Sometimes they will be, but sometimes they will not be. Now, does it talk about familiar things first and then unfamiliar things, or does it give a problem and then a solution? Well, the problem is kind of there in the question. We could call it a question and an answer, but we could call it a problem and a solution. And we see again, we have another problem and another solution. A problem and a solution. And then a problem, a solution. So all the way through these steps, we have problems and solutions. So the best answer would be answer number 3. Okay, that's the end of today's lesson. I'll post lesson 5 on Moodle very soon. Keep working hard. Keep reading as much as possible. The more English that you read, the better your reading speed will get. The skills that you're learning in social studies are very useful for the English exam and vice versa. So the English exam and the social studies exam, these two are very similar. You will get social studies texts, speeches from presidents, information about laws, about the government of America. These topics will come up in both of the exams. So it's really important that you get familiar and comfortable reading long passages. O să las ai, Codec.